This video is because I'm having problems using oil with my Kia. It's a 2017 Kia Optima. It's the 2, 4, 3, whatever's in it. And I'm going through a quart of oil every 825 miles. And I shot this back in around Christmas. And I finally was able to conclude it today. But I have to kind of warn people out there, you're using this B12, Berryman's B12, and you're loosening up all this stuff on the top of your pistons, all this carbon. And even though I cranked the engine over and blew it out the piston holes, there's probably still some in there. I put the 2 things of Berryman's in there. I put one in through the spark plug holes and let it soak for 24 hours. And then I put another one in through the spark plug holes and let that soak for 24 hours. And then I put some paper towels over the spark plug holes and put a regular towel over the top of that so it wouldn't blow the paper towels out of the way. And I cranked it over until I got all that stuff out of the cylinders, and then I let it sit and dry. You know, you're taking a risk when you use that kind of stuff. You could be breaking up some of that particles. Even though I blew a bunch of it out, and you can see in the video, some of it might have gotten through, and you know, that stuff could get stuck in the catalytic converter, I guess. You know, there's a risk to doing this. And I also, after I did the Berryman's and put the new spark plugs in and was able to get it started, I backed it out, and you could smell the Berryman's in the oil. I let it run for about 5-10 minutes, and then I shut it off and I did an engine oil flush with the Moly Flush, and I'll put it down in the description. I think it was the gum out or gunk, whatever Moly Flush I used. Really, you don't have to, I think, do that flush on the bottom crankcase. I did it because I wanted to get it clean from underneath the piston, not just running down the top. I wanted to clean out the inside of that engine because of what I saw on top of those pistons. And when I go to put oil in it, I can look down in there and see there's a lot of tarnished oil, tarnished left over on top of the valves. I use conventional oil. I just started using synthetic. I thought conventional oil was good enough to use. But on these, the rings stick and you start going through oil. So, you know, do this at your own risk. Now I'm going to show you what I did, and then in the end I'll show you what the mileage was and the gains that I got on my car. You may not get this on your car. Depends how bad your rings are. If you could do what I did, and a lot of people have done this and it's worked. And I swear to you, this is the truth. This is what I did, and this is the results. So now you're going to see what I did. Hello everybody. Brr. I'm in my garage. It's about 52 degrees. Better than outside. The other day when I went to start this, it was about 25 degrees, if that. The wind chill factor, and just wasn't very nice. Wasn't very nice. Let's see if that works. And so I took this cover off and pulled the plugs, put the Berryman's down the cylinders, and let it sit overnight. When I took out the first 2 plugs, not bad. I had my little bore scope. I went down there. Top the pistons were kind of caked up with carbon. And first 2 plugs weren't too bad, and I got to the 3rd plug and I just lost my mind. And then I got to the 4th plug was bad too. This thing is burning oil. Yeah, 80,000 miles, new car, burning oil. Let me go get the spark plug. This is the worst one. Hopefully I can get you to see it here. Let's get some light up here. See if you can see this spark plug. I don't know if you can see it or not. Hang on. Let me use my flashlight. Sometimes my flashlight works better. But this, if you can see, the electrode on there, the electrode is all full of crust. It's all crusted up. There you go, you can see it better there. See how crusty that is? And then down into the top of it, up around the center the center electrode, it's black, and there's junk all the way around it. All the way around the porcelain in the center of the spark plug is just gunk. Oh my gosh. And it's black. Sooty stuff like I used to pull out of my old Chevys, you know, back in the 70s, or I'm sorry, 80s. I'd pull out spark plugs from an old burning Chevy with, you know, oil fouled plugs, just like this. But back then the engines didn't last, you know, up to 200,000 miles like they should. And I don't know, this I stayed on the when I first got the car, I had the, because this is direct injection, I had that special thing that they used to clean the top of the valves. I did that when I first got the car, and then I did it twice since then. And I had them take it to the shop and spend the big money to have it done right, to keep those valves clear. And then I look at the top of the pistons and they're full of crap. You know, I did so much research on this car, and the earlier ones, the 14s, some into the 15s, 16s, they were doing a better job. 17s, all the places that I've seen, and even gave the consumer carcomplaints.com, gave it low, it was low marks on a lot of the stuff that had problems with this. I had a few problems with the car, nothing major. Except for now I'm using excessive oil, and now I know I got two bad cylinders. I wonder why people, like I said before, I wonder why people don't buy new cars. I will never buy a direct injection car again. Never. They from what I've read, a lot of times they have a problem with the high pressure pump. When it's off, it leaks gas down into the cylinder, and then it gets into your oil and thins out your oil and makes your oil less viscosity in between oil changes, and it can damage your car. Start with your rod and main bearings. Alright, got the carburetor on the lawnmower. Now I'm back on the car, pouring some of this down the pouring the stuff down through the piston, through the spark plug holes. And then we'll leave it sit overnight. And hopefully tomorrow my spark plugs come in. And I can all done. And I put these little plugs down in the top of the spark plugs just to make sure that kick down the evaporation a little bit. that sit for a while. Bring this with me and you probably can see the I'll be back. I don't know if you can see the top of that piston there. Let me see if I can get this light out of the way. There you go. Top of that piston is nice and clean. And it was all full of black nasty stuff on the top. And when I blew this thing out, let's see if you can see it here. I don't know if you can see that. See all that black stuff on there? See all that black stuff that blew out of there? That's all the carbon that was sitting on top of those pistons. And all of them came clean, just like this one here. Yeah, all of them got nice and clean like that one. So it's Sunday morning. I came down here and took the rags, the little things, the little paper towels I stuffed down in all the spark plug holes. Doubled that sheet of paper towel over, laid that over the top of the 4 spark plugs, and then I put a towel over the top of that. I went in there and just cranked the crap out of it. Not a lot, but cranked it quite a bit. And then I came back and saw all that black stuff come out of there, and then I grabbed my scope and looked down in there and saw the tops of the pistons being nice and clean. So that helps. You can run that B12 in your fuel system. So that stuff's sitting there. If you want to run that in your fuel system, or maybe put it in some kind of mist bottle and get it on the other, and try to get it somewhere after the map sensor. And if you can get a vacuum port, you might be able to mist some of that in there and loosen up some of that carbon that's in there. And it might actually get some of the carbons off the valves, I don't know. Going through the intake, and that'll go across the valve, so maybe that will clean them off a little bit too. They do make a stuff that you can spray in there. It has instructions that you run it up to like 2,000 RPM, and you spray this stuff in the on the intake on the other side of the map sensor, not on this side of the map sensor, past the map sensor, so you don't mess up the map sensor. And you spray it in there, and you can clean your backside of your valves using that. So I put spark plugs in it, and then I'll probably film this when I start it up, because what I saw on TV, that it really smokes a lot. So it starts to smoke a lot. I'm going to open the garage door before I start it, and then I'll just take it outside and let it warm up a little bit before I dump the engine flush into it. So we're moving. We're moving. Yeah, I wanted to explain something. Here's one of the new spark plugs. And I always put a little never seize on them. And don't put the never seize on the very beginning of the threads that go into the spark plug. Go down about a ½ inch and just put a little dab right there. That's all you got to do, is just put a little dab right there. Not too much, just a dab. And now, and then I have this little rubber tool. A lot of people just use a piece of rubber hose, but it's got a little handle on it. You stick your screwdriver. It's for those ones that go way deep down in there. And just take your time putting this stuff in there. Just take your time. Down the center of the hole. Just turn. Alright. Before I stick my socket in there to just give it a hand tight, I look down there and make sure it's all nice and centered. It is. It's all nice and centered. So I just put my socket down there and finger tighten it before I torque it. snug it up, and then I'll come back and torque all those and we'll get all the coils back in there. If you ever use any dielectric grease, don't put a gob. Yeah, I'll show you here. I see a lot of people, they use the dielectric grease when they put it on the end of the coil. Right here, it goes over the spark plug. They'll put a big gob on there. So if you put a big gob on there, when you go to slide this over your spark plug, that gob could get right on the end of your spark plug where this is supposed to push into for a good connection. Well, dielectric grease is to stop that electrical deal. And I put it on boots. So what I use is I use a little Q-tip, put just a little on the Q-tip. I go inside of this boot and I go around the inside of the boot just very lightly. So when I slide this on, it's not a big gob that's going to hit the top of the electrode on top of the spark plug. That little thing right there at the top of the spark plug, it won't get it all big goobered all over it when this thing slides down and snaps into place. So you can use your dielectric grease. You know, just less is better. Just put a little bit in there and it goes a long way. Just keeps the boots from sticking. These came out pretty good. So I'm just going to go very lightly around these when I put it back together. You know, they're in there for 80,000 and these things came right out nice and easy. But that doesn't always happen. Alright, tech tip from Rick. Alright, we're going to start it up. A long time cranking to get this thing started. That's what they kind of showed you on the other video. Hello. Yeah, the video showed that it takes a long time to start that. I mean a long time. Oh, I ran over my little thing. Oh no! It's ruined forever! It'll pop back into shape. There. It's fixed. So we're going to probably let this run for about 5 minutes. 10 to make sure that I have it warmed up. I think that's what the instructions said. Then I'll dump that in there, and I think it's another 15-20 minutes. I'll read the instructions and let you know. I've read them once before, I just forgot. Before I took it out, I pulled the dipstick out and sniffed it away from my hands, so I wouldn't, in case I had some of that Berryman's on my hand. And you could smell the Berryman's had leaked past the rings and into the oil, so it got past the rings. So hopefully this is going to help with the oil consumption. Alright, I'll be back. Oh, just about out of battery time here. Alright, battery's just about dead. Here's that one spark plug I was trying to show you on the inside. See how crusty that is? Look at that. That's the worst one. There's oil fouled. This one too. These are the two bad ones. It's 3 and 4. So I got the oil changed, and oil's real black. Boy, it's really cleaned up well. So this battery's about ready to die, or has it already died? So I'll just kind of run this thing and see what kind of mileage we get between quarts of oil, and I'll let you know. Alright, see ya. Bye. Hello everybody, here we are outside, Christmas Day of 2024, and let's I just checked the oil on the Kia, and it's right up to where it should be. So let's check the miles, and then we're going to start out and see how long it takes for it to go through a quart. Alright, let's see. There we got 81,305. Alright. So mark that down on a piece of paper, put it on the fridge, and we'll see how many miles we put on it. I tell you, I'm just kind of flabbergasted at this. I was using here 825, and look at that, 3,900 and what is it? 3,956 miles I've gained, and I used a quart of oil. Oh my God, really? That's crazy. You know, if I just put Berryman's in the top and soak those, maybe I didn't have to use the oil flush in the bottom. But you have to remember, when I started this, I was down about half a quart of oil because I figured the Berryman's would bring it up to probably around a quart. And then after that, I was going to put the Moly in, which the Moly says to make sure your car is full of oil and that you just idle it. So that's what I did. It was about a half a quart low. I put the Berryman's in there. Before I even started, I pulled it out, and the dipstick was almost on full from those two large jars of Berryman's, and it smelled like Berryman's. It really stunk really bad. So after I got it started, I pulled it out. I let it sit there warm up for 10 minutes. Then I shut it off, and then I put the Moly flush in there, and then I ran that for another 10 or 15 minutes, and I drained it all out, changed the filter, put a new filter in there, put synthetic back in it. I bought some of the Walmart synthetic, it's good. Put the synthetic back in it and drove it. Now, in my case, I was like halfway through, 2/3 of the way through my oil change, which I get changed every 5,000–6,000 miles. So I decided to get down to around 1,500 miles before I did this procedure. That way I would have that new oil in there, kind of getting some of that Berryman's that might have been left in there mixed in with the oil. So when I took it in for the oil change about 1,500 miles later, and I went through about a fourth of a quart of oil during that 1,500 miles. At that time, I got the oil changed, And then I waited until I was down 3/4 of a quart, and that's when that was 3,900, or no, sorry, it was 85,261 was the mileage that it actually got down to 3/4 of a quart. You know, I might be off 100 miles here and there, but geez, from 825 to 3,956. Now, other people have done this on older Toyotas, the 2.4s and the Corollas that were known for weak rings. Some of those it worked, a lot of them they didn't because the rings were just totally shot by the time they went to use it. My saving grace might have been, I've always watched my oil, change it before I came to the 6,000 miles. On my conventional oil, I change it about every 5,000. I have all the receipts. I bought this car with 135,000 on it from Hertz, and Hertz is very particular about doing their oil changes, so I know that I had a good car. This thing didn't use any oil. When I first got this thing, didn't use any oil. And then I noticed after some oil changes, I was always checking the oil, and I noticed I put a fourth of a quart in here between oil changes. And as it progressed, it got worse. Until I got to the point where I said, well, 825, you know, do or die. Let's try this. Can't hurt it any worse, you know. If I got to put a new engine in it, whatever. So try this, see if it works for you. Can you just do the Berrymans on the top end? Maybe, but I think the added oil flush on the bottom gives you that double cleaning from the bottom side to clean the complete engine, not just the top cylinders, but the complete engine clean. That's what I did. If you want to do it, that's fine. You don't have to. So that's the conclusion of this. I wanted to add some more. So if you want to go and look on there and you want to try this, let me know in the comments below. If it works for you. It worked for me, and it's worked for other people. So that's why I tried it. So in conclusion, I wanted to talk to you about this direct injection engine. Other problems that direct injection engines have, not just the Kias but the other ones, is that high pressure pump on top of the engine. When you shut your car off, there's a valve in there that shuts off the gas, and that thing is still under pressure. And some have been known to leak gas while that thing is sitting, and it goes down on top of your cylinders or your pistons. It leaks past your pistons and gets into your oil and thins out your oil with gas. And that can cause bad things like rods and mains. You know, you'll ruin the whole end of the bottom of the engine and it'll blow up on you. So next time I get my oil changed, I'm going to have them save me some oil. I'm going to send it in to have an analysis done. That analysis is cheap compared to what it would cost you for a whole new engine. So I'm going to keep getting that analysis done here and there during the course of having this car a little bit longer, and see if it starts. If I see that I'm getting some gas in my oil, I'm going to change out the high pressure injection pump. It's not that hard to do. You can look on YouTube, shows of all kinds of things. But if you might want to check your oil, have a test done on your oil to see if it's being washed out with gas from that high pressure injector. There are a lot of cars out there that don't do this, but they're kind of on this tear to have this injection because it helps the EPA, helps them get past the EPA regulations. I still think the older cars are better than the newer cars. Personally, I think they've just gotten so complicated, so technically advanced, doing things. Mazda has the one, it's their new, I can't think of what the name of it is. It's, I can't think of it, but they have a lot of problems when they went from their old platform engine that had no problems, was a great engine, and then they started adding all this newer technology to their engines, and they made it worse. So, and the same with Toyotas. Some of the older Toyotas, you know, 2009 was a really bad year for Toyotas. The 2.4s, they were burning oil and they had all kinds of problems. They gotten better, and they still have some of their problems, but you know, maybe stick with the cars that are, you know, around 14, 13. For Toyotas, you might find a good one. Newer ones have their problems. You can go to a place that's called carcomplaints.com, and you can look up your car and look up Toyotas and look up the Kias, and you can go through those, the different models and some of the nightmarish stuff that happens to them. But it's not just Kias, Toyotas, Chevys, whatever. The BMWs, the Volvos, and the other high-end cars out there have problems too. So it's not just this brand. All brands have problems. And it's up to you whether you have deep pockets to pay for all this stuff or just buy an older car and drive the wheels off. There's no reason that you can't get 300,000 miles out of an older car. Would you get 300,000 out of this Kia or some of these newer cars? I don't know. Because all the technology in them, something's going to fail somewhere in the engine. They put too many components in it. Too many variables. It's like a car with all the electronic windows and stuff. It's just more stuff to break. So simple, keep it simple, stupid, was kind of the way maybe you should think about going back and getting a used car instead of buying a new one. If you want to buy a new car, that's up to you, but better make sure your bank account can take a hit when you needed to get it fixed. Alright, this is Rick, and I hope this helps everybody. This is wild. I'm still getting it to sink in. 800 to 3,956. That's just crazy that we have to go through all this to keep our cars running nowadays. Alright, be nice to your neighbors, and I'll catch you later. Bye.